All right. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Self Care Improving the Quality of Everyday Life. So, today's topic is discipline, and just some quick housekeeping notes. If you need to use the chat, feel free. We do take questions or comments, and we encourage them as well. So, if you need to access a YouTube chat, just log into your Gmail account, and it should work. Other than that, yeah, and I hope you enjoyed the session today. All right. Are you guys ready? Are we good? Good. Okay, so our topic today, discipline. So, can anyone here tell me that's physically here or in the chat? Can you guys tell me what discipline is? Discipline. Order. Right? Do the things in order. Sure? Printed. No worries. Okay. Yeah, so it's orderly structure. What do you think discipline is? Mm-hmm. So by definition, what discipline is actually is it's the practice of training people to obey rules, which makes sense, right? Because that's how the orderly structure falls into. So can anyone give me like some examples of discipline? I'll give one. Waking up 4 a.m. every day in the morning. That's a form of discipline because you're training people to obey those rules or practices, right? Does anyone have any other examples of discipline? There's lots of them. That's fine. So like another one is working out 30 minutes every day. So discipline doesn't have to be associated with a specific time, but it's just having to do stuff in a day in a specific time period. You could go by minutes, hours, or even days. I want to get this done in the next day. And then the last type of discipline is a discipline everyone loves. It's the one you get from your parents. So that type of discipline is something that we won't dive too much into, right? Because we're focusing a lot on in this session on self-discipline, right? Because the session is called self-care. So there is discipline that you can be received from others, but that's not always a bad thing, right? Discipline from others is teaching you the difference between good and bad, and that's also a form of discipline. But yeah, all of these are really forms of discipline. So now you know discipline is orderly structure, right? So how does this relate to our series, Self-Care, Improving the Quality of Everyday Life? Well, to improve the quality of your life, one of the biggest steps you can take is gaining discipline. That's the first step. One of the biggest steps you can take to actually improve the quality of everyday life. I'll say someone's sleeping at 3 a.m. every day, waking up at 12 p.m. versus a person who sleeps at say 9 p.m. and wakes up at 7 p.m. The only difference between them is the times they go to bed and wake up. Yet the way both of them will feel is drastically different. Why? Because the person going to bed earlier and wake up earlier will have a fresher start of the day and will have a more positive attitude, right? Wait. Okay, I'll fix that later. But yeah, no. So it's gonna be only with the disciplined life can you actually achieve your goals, right? And be content with yourself. So, as I said, discipline is the first step to self-care, and that's really why I chose this topic, is like to really properly take care of yourself, you're gonna need discipline. So, the first thing we're gonna do is an internal reflection. That's a sheet we all have in front of us, right? So, I don't know, did you guys get pens and stuff? So, sorry. But yeah, it's a internal reflection. So we're gonna turn to the side that says, what does your current day look like? So this first activity is really a reflection, self-reflection, on what type of life you're currently living in, right? So how this is going to work, it's not by like times, like 7. Oh, it can be. It's completely up to you. But the way I would do it is like, say, the activity is meditation. How much do you do in that a day? Let's say 30 minutes, right? So we just write and we see where the time in our day goes, basically. So by doing this, self-reflection is really important because it's the first step to recognizing any areas of growth, right? None of us are perfect. That's reality. But how can we grow? We identify them by doing activities like this. So I just want you to write down how your current day looks to identify identify any that pertain to actually self-care, right? Taking care of yourself. So we can just take 2 minutes, and then we can all just write down. And then for viewers joining online, just feel free to grab a notepad or something and then do the same thing. But this is just a reflection. There's going to be some quiet for 2 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it, okay? All right. I hope that was enough time. If you're still writing, keep on writing. There's no rush, but like just to reflect. Now, I want you to look at this and I want you to ask yourself, what quality of life are you currently living in? Not by tier, but just based on your own merit. Ask yourself, is this the type of life I want to be living, right? And then the second part, like did you identify any self-care? Self-care can be as simple as just meditation, right? It could be as complicated as going out, going to the gym, and actually taking time out of the day to exercise, right? But do you have self-care? So, are we all done? Everyone good? You don't have to fill up full 24 hours. But yeah, okay. Good. So now we're going to move on to the next page. So, flip-a-rooney it around. Yeah, there's stuff on the backside. Yeah, cool. So, now I want you to write like your ideal day. I for sure have thought of this a lot of times, like what I want to do in a day. It could be anything. It could be art. It could be music, right? Even if you don't have it, what do you want to do? So now we're going to take another 2 minutes and we're going to say, what quality of life do you want to live? And then do these activities include self-care, right? And you want to really prioritize what you want, right? Because to live a disciplined life, you want to know what you want to achieve, right? You want some direction. So we'll just take another 2 minutes and write down anything that like you want to, even if you're still doing it, maybe you want to do it some more, or maybe you're doing too much of one thing, but you want to do less, right? So just reflect with yourself. This is not going to be timed or anything. So just talk to yourself and see where you want to be and what you want to do. And then, yeah. Hopefully you're done. Do you guys need another minute? Yeah? No? Yeah. Good? Okay. Hopefully that was somewhat fun. Not really a fun activity, but knowledgeable, right? So, the next thing what we're going to do is I want you, so you see there's little check boxes on the second page. So, I want you to go through your current day and go through your ideal day. Whichever ones that you do in your current day, even if it's not to the time limit, I want you to put a check mark. That's simple as that. And then that way we can really identify and we can see where the areas of improvement are, right? So I'll give you an example. I probably play sports for 30 minutes a day, right? But I wrote here, I want to play it for an hour. I'm still going to check mark it even though, but there's still room for improvement, right? The biggest rooms for improvement is going to be where we don't have check marks, right? Because the biggest hurdle is always getting something started, right? From going to that 0 to 5 minutes working out, then the 5 to 10 becomes easier, right? So just go through it and see what we actually do in a day, and then what we don't. And then, yeah. Okay, if you guys are comfortable, you guys can feel free to share. I'll share mine, and I'll share what I do in the day. That's good for self-care, and what I'm missing out. So meditation right now, I don't meditate that much in a day, if at all, sometimes, right? So that's something that I really need to improve on, right? And that's really important to self-care because that has that self-reflection part to it. So that's something that I need to improve on, right? My ideal day will have 30 minutes to an hour meditation, right? Because just sitting with yourself and doing it really improves your state of mind. But I also have sports, as I mentioned before. I do play like half an hour a day, but I want to move that up to an hour, right? And then I want also 30 minutes family time, right? So to spend time with like your family or friends, right? That's also really important nowadays, right? So that's something I don't do much of, but I still want to improve. So if also I want to read 15 minutes a day. I want to play music 15 minutes a day. So these are just some of the things that I want to do that'll help my improve my quality of life, right? So do you want to share anything that you felt like you had to grow in? Any areas?
I don't. I write for my home school work, but I don't write for myself.
So journaling, right?
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, that's really good. How about you?
Yeah, I want to put in time for especially in the morning after meditation for exercise.
Yeah. That's important. No. No.
I want to reduce my sleep time by an hour.
Oh. That's actually fair, right? Because a lot of us are sleeping 10, 12 hours a day, and what's the quality of that sleep, right? Not that good. So what's better, 8 hours quality sleep or 10 hours not, right? But no, that's a really good answer. So these are all self-care things, right? So now that we have this, we're gonna keep it in mind, right? What do we want to improve on? Because the things, I'll give you an example. My meditation time, right? I want to improve on that, right? And that's going to be in my mind when I'm trying to discipline myself, right? So yeah, the common things that people don't implement are usually exercise, like self-care time, whether that be meditation or just sitting with themselves, whatever they want to call it, right? Sleep is another big one, right? So all of these are common ways people self-care basically, but don't have enough quality time with it, right? Okay. So now we're going to move on to the big question. So a disciplined life, whatever we wrote down on this sheet, what does our ideal day look like, right? Why is it that we can't attain this, right? Because it seems easy on paper, right? Oh, I can play an hour music or whatever, right? But why can't we attain it? What distracts us from attaining our disciplined life or our ideal life, right? Any ideas?
Laziness.
Laziness, that's a big one. Yes. That's one that I fall victim to all the time. So, laziness. Anything else?
Distraction.
Yeah, distractions. Good.
Maybe from friends, maybe
Yeah.
from a phone.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Doubt.
Okay. Huh?
Doubt.
Doubt. Self-doubt. That's a big one. Yeah. So, I can't attain this, so why should I even try, right? But yeah, no, all these are good answers. So, it's really what stops us from waking up tomorrow and really making that change in our life, right? Because on paper, as I said, it should be really easy. But so the main thing here, there's like 5 main things I've identified. So one is the fear of change. A lot of people are scared, right? What if I change my current lifestyle? Maybe I'll get sick, or maybe it won't do good for me. Or maybe they use that as an excuse not to change, right? Second thing, laziness, as you said, right? Laziness is a big one. Oh, I can do it tomorrow, and that tomorrow becomes day after, and then that day after comes a year later, right? And then third one is a weak willpower, right? So we're going to talk about this later, but discipline actually comes 50% mental, 50% physical, right? So we'll take exercise for an example. Oh, like I am perfectly capable of exercising an hour a day, right? So that 50% physical is already there, right? But why don't I? It's because of that 50% mental, right? That mental strength, that willpower. Oh, 30 minutes is enough for today. 5 minutes is enough for today, right? I don't have that strong willpower. And when you have weak willpower, right, you can't live a disciplined life, right? Because your mind and your brain and it will be telling you what to do. It'll be bossing you around, right? So you need a strong willpower. The fourth one is weak prioritization, right? We tend to, when we're stressed, at least for myself, I tend to do things that are really not important, but are still lingering in the back of the mind, other than doing the really important thing at hand, right? That often messes up our schedule. Why? Because that weak prioritization leads to procrastination. And when that procrastination comes around, what's going to happen? You're going to be staying up late and trying to finish that assignment, work thing on a deadline, right? So weak prioritization, and that ties into weak willpower, right? Direct correlation. And then 5 is there going to be outer pressures as well, which is what you touched on, right? The outer pressures really consist of, we're going to talk about this later, relationships, right? Resources and rest, the 3 big ones. We talked about imbalance, and we're going to talk about it again. But yeah, so all these things, as you can see, the reason why we can't really attain a disciplined life the next day is because there's so many factors that can easily affect us to be like, tomorrow, right? And that's big, right? So, yeah. So, instead of a story, I'm going to talk about a basketball player. I'm a basketball fan, if you guys don't know, but I'm going to talk about Kobe Bryant. Everyone knows him? Yeah? To some extent? No? That's fine. Well, he was highly regarded as one of the best basketball players ever, right? But what set him apart really was his mindset, okay? He had a really good mindset, and that's what led him to lead a disciplined life. You can't have a disciplined life without having a good mindset, right? A strong, determined mindset. So we look at a lot of people and see the people who have succeeded are the ones that do live a disciplined life, right? That live that really work on their talent, work every day for a specific number of hours, and know how to control their minds, right? So Kobe Bryant, he had 3 main disciplines. Discipline to work, right? He was up 7 a.m. every morning playing basketball or whatever, right? That's like a given for most athletes and stuff like that, right? Because they need that. But what really set him apart, again, was that discipline to say no. Do you want to go out tonight? No, I can't, right? Saying no is one of the most difficult things. But if you're able to say no, that's when you'll really progress in life, right? Because if you get stuck saying yes, 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 you're only going to add more to your plate and you're going to crash. You're going to burn out even harder, right? And then the discipline to learn. This is important because if you don't have a learning mindset and that growth mindset that I can constantly become a better person every single day, you're not going to become that better person, right? So we see discipline all over in like this news stories, etc., etc. So like weight loss, right? Some people go through tremendous physical overturns, right? But they did not do that without discipline, right? People go through addiction recovery, stuff like that. But the underlying driving motivator under all this is going to be discipline, right? Because like if you're recovering from addiction, right? Even one thing you're addicted to, one more, right, can get you back into that loop. So having a discipline and strong mindset is really what sets people apart. So discipline is something that really drives and helps people succeed in life. And that's really the most important part. We're here talking about success as the quality of your everyday life, right? We're relating it to how we take care of ourselves. So we don't need to be like the famous athletes or anything like that. We need to be the best version of ourselves that make ourselves happy, right? So all while doing that, he still had a high quality of life and still cared for himself, right? And that's the most important part, right? You can't sustainably do this for over 20 plus years, right? If you don't have that satisfaction, that contentment that comes with self-care and quality of life. So yeah, so now my personal experience, I think it's become a running theme that I usually talk about things that I struggle the most with. And I think that's really good because it gives me a chance to dig deep and figure out how I can improve, right? So I am the farthest thing from discipline, right? I usually go to bed at 11, 12, wake up at 9, right? Because of university, right? And now that we're in final seasons, there's only going to be more studying to do, right? I can't have the time for the sports. I can't have the time. Well, I don't make the time. There's a difference, right? I don't make the time for this, right? Because I don't have good prioritization. So my experience with discipline is one of I'll do it tomorrow, right? That sort of mindset where it's like procrastination and all of that builds up to tremendous stress in the end, right? Is that healthy? No. Do I wish I can change it? Yes. Why can't I change it? I have a weak willpower, basically. So that's really how it flows. And that's how the story of my life has really been, right? That weak willpower, unless I really enjoy something and really am passionate about it, that weak willpower just can overtake my mind so quickly, right? And that's something I struggle a lot with. And that's why I chose to do this one, because I was like, I did balance, right? I struggled with balance. But when you're struggling with balance, you're also struggling with discipline. So I'm like, how can I differentiate the two? And I look into aspects where I can improve balance, but I didn't really look into how discipline really works, right? Because you can't really have balance without having discipline. So I know I dug deep, and then the real conclusion that I came up with that is that there are two aspects to discipline, and I touched on this before. The aspect of mental and the aspect of physical, right? It's not one or the other. It's both equal, right? So what's the physical aspect? It's going to be the physical effort. Whether it would be, I'll take an example. I want to play music, right? Why can't I be disciplined enough to play music? I can put in the physical effort, right? Because I know how to play many instruments and stuff. So the physical effort is there. What's lacking is the mental strength part, right? Why? Because I'm like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, right? I'll be like, that's not my priorities today, right? But if it's not my priorities today, when will it ever be my priority, right? So that's, again, my weak prioritization. I would rather watch 15 minutes more of TV, right? And I'm sure a lot of us would rather do that, right? And that's just facts. But yeah, so 50% is mental and 50% is physical, right? So everyone's heard the expression hard work surpasses talent, right? Why is that? Because to attain really your goals, you need to have discipline. And to attain discipline, you need to be able to put the physical effort in, right? That's kind of the chain of command. But what about the mental aspect? There's also another expression, mindset is everything, right? If you go into a test with the same knowledge, right? One with the mindset that you're going to do well, one with the mindset that you're going to do work, that's actually going to come into fruition, right? It's going to materialize. That's going to happen, that you're going to do worse on the one that you thought you were going to do worse on, right? Because that's in your subconscious. So your mindset is everything. That's where my willpower comes into play, right? My mindset is I let my mind control me, which is not right? It should be the 50-50, right? But yeah, so even if you are willing to put in the hard work, if you go with the wrong mindset and not the proper attitude, you'll just go back to square one, right? And we often get distracted and let our mind talk us into doing the easy way out. The easy way out, right? That's such strong words in my opinion, because easy way out is what really human nature is. Think about even 200 years ago, right? Look how far we've come technologically, how lazy it's made us, right? We always look for the easy way out. If there's a chance where we do less work, we're going to take that, even if there's going to be short-term benefits, but we don't recognize the long-term pain from that, right? So I'm going to ask you guys a question, and I want you to just think to yourself, when's the last time you did this and if it was successful. So we're going to talk about New Year's resolution. So everyone here, I assume, at least had some New Year's resolution or something they wanted to improve in 2021, seeing that how that was 3 years ago, right? So the main thing is I just want you to ask yourself, what was my New Year's resolution and how long did it last? Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you, 9 out of 10 people, it's not going to last. Why? Because of their willpower, their mindset, right? They just use New Year's as an excuse to say, oh, I'm going to improve on this. But do they really mean it? If you really meant it, then it's going to materialize, then it's going to happen. But if they go in with the mindset, oh, I need a New Year's resolution, how about I exercise more? Oh, next day, oh, whoops, I forgot to exercise yesterday, right? And then you would be like, oh, it was New Year's, why would I exercise on New Year's? And then you just plummet, right? So that's the main thing here. That just shows that, like, so many people come up with these New Year's resolution, right? But they don't know how to implement it. They don't know how to really put it into, like, practice, right? Which is so important. But they don't do it. Why? Because they don't have that mental strength, right? That motivation, that drive. So we're going to come back to why people don't, right? So we talked about mental strength, physical effort, right? So that's really to do with the inner part, right? But what are some other pressures, right? Inner and outer. We discussed this before, right? What's really stopping us from living in that high quality of life? Well, for the inner pressures, we're going to come back to the 3, right? The fear, the laziness, the willpower, right? That has fear. Laziness has most to do with physical, right? Physical effort. Fear has a mix of both. And then willpower is mainly to do with mental, right? So those 3, even if you have 1, right? Then you won't have a disciplined life, right? But for most of us, including me, right? It's a mix of willpower and laziness. So that makes it twice as hard to really grow out of the shell, right? But here we focused on inner pressures, but now we're going to focus on outer pressures, right? So outer pressures, I touched on it before, the rest, the relationships, and the resources, right? So can anyone tell me what virtue was associated with rest? Anyone remember? Peace, yay, 1 point to her. And then relationships.
No.
Oh, 1 point. And then resources. Yeah, she wins. Yay. Okay. But yeah, so rest, relationships, and resources. Rest is associated with peace. Why do we go to bed? Other than that, biologically we have to. It's to actually gain good rest, right? We can choose whether we want good quality sleep or bad quality sleep. How? We can choose to watch a movie before going to bed or not, right? I'm sure we have all seen the difference of watching a movie before going to bed and then your mind state after, right? Because your mind's still going, right? So with the rest, you're really looking for peace there, right? And then I'll give you an example. How do we get pressured to go away from discipline to attain that peace? I just said TV, right? Television, electronics, right? That really, if it's, again, it's an easy way out. We're really trying to escape the stress that's in here. It's for us, television and electronics is a way to escape reality for a couple of moments, right? When you're watching that TV, are you thinking about any assignments due or anything? No, you're not, right? But what happens, right, is what discipline life, say, like, because I'm sure no TV time in a day is quite impractical for a lot of us. So I wrote in here 30 minutes of TV time, right? But what's going to happen is if I want this discipline life, say I was living everything except the TV, right? What's going to happen is once that 30 minutes is over, there's going to be 10 minutes left in the episode. Or I'm going to start thinking about my assignment that's due. And then I'm going to be like, you know what? I deserve the next 10 minutes, right? And we'll just make up an excuse, make up a reason why we can't be disciplined, right? And then that has to do with your mental willpower, right? So the TV to distract us from reality, that's one thing that really strays us from discipline, right? I think we can all agree on that, right? Now take relationships, which has to do with love, right? Say your friends or your family says, let's go out tonight, right? Are you going to say no? No, why not? Well, most people aren't going to say no. Why? Because it could be for a variety of reasons. You don't want to hurt their feelings, right? You actually want to go and you want to be included, right? So there's so many different aspects here. But when they ask you to go out, what you're doing is sacrificing your own discipline for the happiness of others. This series is about self-care, right? How can you really improve yourself? And part of that is learning how to say no, the discipline to say no, right? So basically, when you have the ability to say no to the relationships, it allows you to live a disciplined life. And a lot of people think they're only hurting themselves, but you're not, right? You're actually benefiting themselves. And lastly, it's resources, which comes from like happiness, and that comes from money, basically, right? For a lot of us. Can anyone guess how like that doesn't really or negatively affects our discipline or routine? Any examples? Overtime, right? It's an incentive to work longer because you get paid more, and then that greed comes in. Oh, if I just work this more hour, I can double my pay. Most rational people will take it, right? But then again, that interferes with the discipline in your life. You're going out of your way. You're going out of the disciplined manner to gain something else, right? So those three, the rest of relationships and resources, all combine to basically deviate us from having a disciplined life, right? But people with strong mental strength, right? Willpower, right? They're able to not only overcome the outer pressures, but it stems from the inner strength, right? So that's really what you need. I'm sure a lot of us feel that like physical is a lot easier than the mental part, right? At least for me personally. Physical, I feel like it's not like that I can't play the piano, right? It's like I don't have the mental strength to. So that's really important, right? And then, as I said before, the outer pressures are related to the balance, right? I said that day is that like a lot of people think 8 hours rest, 8 hours relationship, 8 hours resources, right? But in my opinion, that is not aligned with your priorities, right? It's like if someone tells you to work 7 hours in a day, right? But one person's efficiency is going to be greater than another. So is that really equal? No, because one person's going to be able to go at a lot quicker rate, right? So my view on what this is, you really decide how much rest, relationships, and resources, right? That's based on the prioritization, right? A lot of people can go for 4 hours of sleep, right? But a lot of people need and have become dependent on 12 hours of sleep, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But you need to both respond to your body's needs, but to a reasonable extent, right? I'll give you an example. For me, it's probably resources are going to be like 10 hours a day. I'll be working 10 hours and then I'll be resting 10 hours, and then I'll only spend relationships on 4 hours, right? Because I'm staying with my family anyways. Like, we don't need to bond too much, you know? But yeah, so living a balanced life requires that discipline, right? Sticking to whatever you assign or you prioritize, right? But then again, we've talked about how this is easier said than done, right? So what happens when we're inclined to take the easy way out, right? So what really happens when you're not disciplined is you're going to live a life of unfulfillment and undesirable lifestyle, basically. And what will this lead to? It'll basically lead you to get disciplined by life itself. Remember, we touched on getting discipline from your parents or from someone else, right? Discipline in schools doesn't mean, right? What it does mean is they're teaching you right and wrong. And if you do something wrong, right, there's going to be consequences, right? So I'll give you an example, right? When you're not disciplined, I said life's what? Unfulfilling, uncontent. You're not content with your life, right? You have an unclear direction in life, right? Someone who's not disciplined are gonna live life day by day, right? But they're not gonna have any future purpose, which is important, right? If you want to get somewhere in life, you need that future purpose. So, as I said, parents will discipline you to teach you right and wrong, right? Life will discipline you in terms of success for your goals, right? Say I am a graduating engineer student, right? But did I really put all the hard work that I could in during my time at university? No. So when that interview comes, right, and I get rejected, whose fault is it's my own, right? Because I didn't put that discipline. I didn't have that discipline, and that was the cause that I didn't have success in my goals, right? Because life is going to teach you one way or another, right? And that's usually, we call it through discipline. It's going to teach you. It's going to teach you after you learn that, right? Then you're going to start working harder, right? But you needed to be disciplined to learn that. So, with unclear direction, you will likely live a low quality of life with little self-care, right? For some, that may mean sleeping at 3 a.m. For some, that may be working 14 hours a day, right? Both are very unhealthy, right? And that leaves you to live a low quality of life. Cool. So, if you do live this type of life, I do, not to the fullest extent, but I do live a undisciplined life, which I want to which there is room for improvement in, right? But even though I do live that, I'm not too hard on myself. Why? Because it's in human nature, right? I'll give you an example. We talked about easy way out, right? If you're gonna say take a lap around the room, right? You're gonna take the smallest lap possible, right? So that's just human nature. So it's not your fault for taking the easy way out, and you should never be too hard on yourself. But when you should be hard on yourself, right, is when you have the opportunity to change it and you don't, right? You don't take that step forward. You don't take that leap of faith. So this goes back to my last month's lecture about satisfaction, right? Short-term pain, long-term gain, or short-term gain, long-term pain, right? What happens is discipline requires you to have long-term gain, but short-term pain. But a lot of people can't see past that short-term pain, right? They don't see the long-term gain. I'll give you an example. Say you eat one candy every day, right? And then you go to tomorrow, you're like, I'll eat one more candy. The day after, you're like, what harm will it do? I'll eat one more candy. Soon enough, for a year, you've eaten so much candy, right, that it's going to have adverse effects on your health, right? Even though that short-term gain, for maybe 5-10 seconds for that candy, right, in your day, right? You're going to have health consequences that you're going to face later on in your life. But people can't see past that, oh, this one little candy, right? I need it, right? It's not going to do any harm right now. So that's why it is in human nature not to live it to always take the easy way out. So I have a quote here: discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want the most, right? And the ability to discipline yourself is to delay gratification, or like contentment in the short term in order to enjoy the greater rewards in the long term is indispensable prerequisite to success, right? You need that for success. I'll take an example of Kobe again, right? He maybe woke up at 5 a.m. every day, right? Not one day did he say, let me take the day off, right? But then that accumulated and that really paid off in the end, right? So the ability to delay that gain, right? That personal gain to the long term will be so much more successful, right? So instead of like beating yourself up or whatever, you should just be willing to change. That's the biggest thing, right? Even though human nature is always taking the easy way out or taking the short-term benefits, you can change that. And if you recognize that you can change that, that's always the first step, right? So, that being said, say you're willing to change. How do you really change into a disciplined life and improve the quality of your life, right? So I came up with 3 simple steps, right? So one is you need the clear direction, right? That's a given, right? Say you need actual goals to define your discipline by, right? Your discipline could be as simple as or your goals could be as simple as working out 30 minutes a day. Or your goals can be as big as having a career in, say, astronauts or something. I don't know, right? But having a clear direction of where you want to go and recognizing that every single day is really important, right? Because it'll remind you what's important, right? We often get distracted and go other ways, but if you really have that clear direction, that's going to help you to live a disciplined life. Second is consistency, right? There's going to be none of that, oh, only this day I'll have a bowl of ice cream, right? You can't do that, right? Because then that messes up everything, right? You need consistency. And third, you need baby steps. I think this is the most what's the word? It's a biggest step that people don't realize. I'll give you an example. Say you wanted to lose 10 pounds, right? Can you do it all in one day? No. Say you work out for 24 hours straight, right? Are you going to lose 10 pounds all of a sudden? No, you're not, right? It's baby steps. When you work out that 24 hours, right, you're actually deteriorating your own health, right? It's going to have consequences. So the reason people don't like discipline is because it takes a long time. Remember, I said long-term gain, short-term pain. People can't stand not having immediate results, right? But that's so important. That's with anything you ever do, whether it be like exercise, right? Whether it be like anything you ever learn, right? For school, right? Do they teach it all in like 5 days, 24 hours a day? No, because nothing retains and it's not consistent, right? Instead, they use baby steps, an hour a day for 10 months, right? That's going to really build your understanding. So the 3 of these combined, the clear direction, the consistency, and the baby steps, all will provide you with the determination to live a high quality of life, right? People can define what a high quality of life means for themselves, but really it will give you the motivation and determination to gain discipline and achieve your goals. That clear direction should be somewhere in the worksheet, right? That's why we really did this worksheet, is now to provide you clear direction. For me, 1 hour meditation. How am I going to achieve that? Consistency, baby steps, and acknowledging that it's something I need to improve in, right? Consistency, every day, we'll say. Baby steps. Maybe I'll work my way up from 15 minutes to 20 minutes, and 20 minutes to 25, right? As you do that, it'll be easier to grow every single day, right? And this will ultimately give you the motivation and determination, and it'll give you contentment, which is really important, right? So, we talked about hard work will always overcome natural talent when natural talent doesn't work hard enough, right? So, we talked about this, right? With this determination from those 3 steps, you can really succeed in whatever you want to do. Whatever you put your mind to, that is really what gives you that strong willpower, right? Basically, in order to be successful, you need to be not only be motivated, which is like the first step, but you need to be disciplined, right? So say you get motivated, right? Say you're like, okay, I'll work out today, right? But what's stopping you from not working out tomorrow? Or what's keeping you going is discipline, right? Motivation always starts it, but discipline keeps it going, right? You can have motivation, but if you don't have discipline, it's never going to work out in your favor, right? Because soon enough, that motivation is going to run out. So, coming back to this quote, hard work will always overcome natural talent, right? And that hard work always comes with discipline. That's the main thing, right? All hard work, natural talent, if that person is not living a disciplined life, right? It'll be easily became overcame by the people that are working hard. So, implementation, right? How do we implement a balanced life? Well, we talked about what we can do, but what are 3 things that people all often fall into traps for? First is a commitment, right? You need to be really committed, right? You need to acknowledge to yourself that it is a big time commitment, and you need to be focused, right? Second is you need to avoid the temptations to take one day off, the temptations to eat one more candy bar or whatever. So you need to avoid those. And third, you need to replace your bad habits with good habits, right? So there's this expression, you can't really get rid of bad habits. What you have to do to overcome them is replace it with a good one, basically, right? So that's really important. Instead of saying stop TV for an hour a day, right? Well, if you don't know what you're going to place that hour of the day with, you're just going to go back to TV. Say I'm going to replace 30 minutes with music, 30 minutes with reading, right? Then it's feasible, right? So this 3 simple things: commitment, avoid temptations, and replace bad habits with good ones. These will really keep you going and will ensure your discipline, right? So, last thing that we're going to talk about today is contentment and discipline. There's this quote here: discipline is a bridge between goals and accomplishments. Discipline is a bridge between goals and accomplishments. To make those goals into accomplishments, you need discipline, basically. You need to be committed to it every single day. You need to be focused, and you need to have the strong mental strength and be willing to put in that physical effort in order to attain that goal and make it an accomplishment, right? Only then will you achieve contentment, right? You won't ever achieve contentment by not living a not disciplined life, right? Sure, it could be short-term, really short-term contentment, but you're not going to achieve the satisfaction, right? So, in the end, if you live a disciplined life, you will be content with yourself. That's a big thing. Self-care, right? Self-care includes having no self-doubt, right? Just allowing yourself to be the best version of yourself. So it will allow you to turn your goals into achievements, and it will allow you to take care of yourself and improve the quality of your life, right? Contentment is always good. You won't have second thoughts. You'll be really proud of yourself, and that's something a lot of people lack today, right? Where they don't really have that they often underappreciate themselves, right? So having that contentment that is associated with discipline can really improve their quality of life. So, the last thing is we're going to end on it's an interesting note today. We're going to end on a self-reflection. So, I want you to grab your sheet that you made, and I just want you to identify 3 goals and see how you can turn them into achievements. We'll spend 1 minute on that, and then today's session will be over. But what good was this session if you don't know what you need to work on, right? So we're going to take 1 quick minute, and we're just going to see which 3 goals you want to work on and how you can turn them into achievements. And I feel like that's a really big thing. So we'll take 1 minute, and then we'll just close it off after that. a journal and just make 3 goals that you can work on, right? So again, I hope that at least one thing that we talked about today stuck with you and that you can somehow implement it in your life. For a lot of people, that's going to be sitting with themselves, right? Just for 1 minute, 5 minutes. That's going to be a real life changer, because self-reflection is one of the biggest change makers in your life, right? Acknowledging issues, acknowledging where you have areas to improve is really the fuel, the gas to the fire, right? It'll really propel you forward. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Feel free to leave now if you wish. We do offer Raj Yoga courses if you are interested. Just contact us or put it in the chat. And then, yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you.